Hey guys, Zanza here. Today I thought we would try something a little different and do a bit of a reaction. Now, for reactions, normally it's best to have like your facial expressions, your thoughts, and all these other little tics that you might have. Unfortunately, I do not have that luxury, especially since I'm not technically a VTuber and have no idea how to do that. If you do know how to do that or have good examples on how it's done properly, by all means let me know in the comments below. Anyway, so today I wanted to actually react to the many historical references with the DDD archetype, dash the unknown side of Yu-Gi-Oh! Made by the TheDuelLog's. This video was brought up to me by one of our guys on the Discord, so shout out to My Honest Reaction for letting me know that this existed. I just subscribed to them, I liked the video, I commented, which is exactly what you guys should be doing to that video and this video if you guys happen to like my commentary. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out his video.
The DD archetype, as well as its sub-archetype DDD, is one of Yu-Gi-Oh's most well-known combo archetypes, infamous for its legendary flowchart of insane two-card combos you have to memorize to properly pilot it.
I did memorize
But that's not what we're here to talk about today, as DD is also one of the archetypes loaded with the most historical and mythological references of any Yu-Gi-Oh deck, as well as very unique lore involving all of these legendary figures seemingly working for a company when you look at their original OCG names. Today, we'll be doing a deep dive in explaining the references, both in names and the artwork of the DD.
If I could and was a more bit of a weeb type of guy, I would probably just remember all of their Japanese names and use them whenever I'm in like locals or something, instead of calling them by their actual English names.
Type in this episode of The Unknown Side of You.
Actually, I remember I used to do that in local and regional tournaments back when I was playing in the Synchro era more, frequently. And I actually ended up doing the synchro chants, memorizing them from the Yusei and Antinami Bruno decks. And people, it just bothered them so much that I would do that instead of doing their fast, quick-paced, whatever nonsense game so they can move on. And I'm like, how do you guys have even fun playing the game if you don't do something like that? Just freaking have fun.
Yu-Gi-Oh! DD has a huge number of main deck monsters, more than most archetypes. And while basically all of them are some reference to some kind of mythological beast, we'll be skipping over some of those.
Boo.
You probably don't need me to explain to you where they got the idea for DD Cerberus or DD Griffin, or why the artwork depicts a dog with 3 heads or a lion-eagle hybrid creature.
I know Cerberus is from Greek mythology, with Hercules and all that story. Griffin, I'm not actually sure where he's from. Griffins are just griffins. I think they're European, if anything. I honestly don't remember. I wish I got into it, that way I don't have to, do it myself and research.
The more interesting part of the main deck DD monsters are the DD Savant monsters.
I do know
this
these
is
guys.
A series of monsters who are named after and inspired by famous scientific minds in history. Kicking off this group is DD Savant Copernicus, named for Nicholas Copernicus. He was a Renaissance-era thinker and astronomer, then commonly known as a polymath, who was most famous for his development of the model of heliocentrism. Through meticulous study of celestial patterns, Copernicus determined that the Earth and all planets in the sky were revolving around the Sun, as opposed to the common belief that everything else in the universe revolved around the Earth.
Alright, let's be honest. How many flat earthers are actually in this channel subscribed? I'm just curious. I'm not mad or disappointed or any of that stuff. I'm just curious if any of you guys are actually flat earthers.
This was one of science and history's greatest breakthroughs, beginning the early steps of the scientific revolution. In his card artwork, you can even see it playing homage to this, as it depicts an artistically stylized heliocentric model with a blazing sun in the middle of the model with rings depicting planetary orbits surrounding it. Continuing the astronomer theme, we next have DD Savant Kepler. This references
pretty much the only one-card
starter
starter aside from the gate.
Did important work as an inventor in the creation of the refracting telescope, sometimes known as the Keplerian telescope. Kepler is credited with doing much of the work to bring the field of astronomy out of the more vague ties it had to the less than scientific astrology, and bringing it closer to math and physics as a true natural science, rather than a tool used strictly for religious and ceremonial thinking. Kepler is perhaps best known for the creation of Kepler's first and second laws, theorizing that planets move in elliptical patterns around the Sun, and that the speed of these paths were proportional to how close the planets were to the Sun. These laws inform the artistic reference in DD Savant Kepler's artwork, showing a heliocentric model much like DD Savant Copernicus, but emphasizing the different elliptical orbits and how much these orbits vary in size based on how far away from the Sun.
I just thought they were circles. They were actually
Still
little
following
eggy.
in those astronomical footsteps, our next savant is DD Savant Galilei.
The one that
named
nobody
for Galileo
uses.
Galilei. Galileo is a similarly famous astronomer, known for both his championing of the then controversial heliocentric model of the solar system, but also for his discoveries and calculations about the orbits of the planets and the existence of smaller moons that orbited other planets. While he was the inventor of other scientific tools, Galileo is most associated with the telescope due to his most significant discoveries coming from the usage of the tool. Galileo proved Johann Kepler's laws, cementing the heliocentric model that Copernicus theorized many years prior. You can see those telescope discoveries paid homage to the artwork in Didi's Savant Galilei,
There's a giant
depicting a
scope.
massive telescope lens situated in a rock. Like how telescopes used in observatories would frequently be built into mountains to get a clearer view of
And
the
he still
sky.
has a face.
And for the last of our astronomical savants, we have Didi's Savant Newton. This card references Isaac Newton, and to call him an
We
astronomer,
actually have a few more that just haven't been released, so I guess he's only going to cover the official cards that are out.
like the rest, would be greatly underselling Newton's contribution to science and the overall impact he's had. Similar to Kepler, Newton is most known for establishing his laws, known as Newton's laws of motion.
Yep.
The most important one for this topic is Newton's third law, based around the conservation of momentum. This is often demonstrated by Newton's cradle device, which is a series of balls hanging
Which is
from this
exactly what
obstruction.
the Newton
When you
card
lift
is.
one ball from one end and drop it, it hits the other balls, which transfers the momentum to the ball on the opposite end, which then moves, thus demonstrating the conservation of momentum, even through multiple distinct objects. This device is referenced in Didi's Savant Newton's artwork with Newton's cradle built into its left side. Also, much like Didi's Savant Galilei, Newton's artwork shows a type of telescope built into its bottom half, though this time depicting Newton's reflector, the first successful use and creation of a reflector telescope created by Newton to further his astronomical study. Next up, move away from the astronomers of the 1500s-1600s and into the engineers of the 1800s with Didi's Savant Nikola, named for the one and only Nikola Tesla.
You think that the levels are lower for these guys because they're technically younger, if you want to call them that? Maybe like the further away they are from our current timeline, our current date, then the higher the levels are?
Nikola Tesla is best known for his pioneering work as an electrical and mechanical engineer, primarily his development and championing of the use of the alternating current, or AC electrical current, which forms the vast majority of electricity transferred in the modern day. Didi's Savant Nikola's art shows a large red ball, presumably a plasma ball.
If you look at him,
center,
he actually
as
looks
well
like
as
he has a
little electrical
mustache.
arcs streaming off of it in the background to be reminiscent of the famous Tesla coil, a device invented by Tesla that was used to show specific kinds of alternating current. Opposite Nikola, we have our next monster, Didi's Savant Thomas. This time, the reference is obvious, Nikola Tesla's similarly famous counterpart,
You actually see his face down here, and it looks like he's got a giant head.
rival and employer, Thomas Edison. He's primarily known for his
Oh
support
my God,
of
they have
direct
similar
current
heads. That's
electricity,
pretty cool.
also known as DC current, as well as his innovations and patenting of the common incandescent light bulb. The art in Didi's Savant Thomas unsurprisingly shows a giant glass container with a mural-style depiction of a sun inside mounted to the monster. A light source in the sun inside a glass container is a rather metaphorical but obvious allusion to light bulbs. Also, much like in his Nikola's artwork, Thomas also depicts background electricities jolting everywhere in reference to
I
Edison's
never
work with the
considered
DC
that, so this is
electrical
so cool to
and
be
a
able to
final
take a
fun
look at
fact about these
this.
two involves their levels and pendulum scales. While the previous astronomical DD savants have extreme 1 and 10 scales that make them play well with each other and most other monsters, Nikola and Tesla very explicitly have conflicting stats when they show up together. Nikola is level 6 with a pendulum scale of 8, and Thomas is a level 8 with a pendulum scale of 6. These stats
Coincidence?
ensure that you will
I
never
think
be able to
not.
pendulum summon either of these monsters if their rival is in the pendulum zone. For instance, if Nikola is in one of your scales with its 8 pendulum scale, you can't pendulum summon Thomas, who's level 8, and vice versa. While this kind of inherent anti-synergy isn't ideal in a deck, it's there to show how Tesla and Edison were rivals and oftentimes enemies despite working together.
It's actually
This
pretty
is
cool.
especially true in their rivaling ideas on electricity supply in the famous War of the Currents, with Tesla supporting AC power and Edison supporting DC
AC/DC.
power. Just one more small piece of historical references hidden in these cards.
Wait, did AC/DC name their bands because of this? I have no idea. I don't follow those little things. I just listen to the music like a bit of an ignorant folk. But let me know if that's the case, if you guys know AC/DC.
And that's it for the release Savant so far, but I would be remiss not to point out one last reference. There are some DD Savants that appear in the anime that haven't seen print yet, and the most interesting of these is the anime-only card, DD Savant Schrodinger.
Yeah.
While this is an obvious reference to Erwin Schrodinger, one of history's greatest.
If a monster battles during damage calculation, you can make the battle damage you take from this battle 0, then special summon this monster. It's a what, 3, 6. So you take the damage, or you would take the last damage ideally. Special summon this in defense mode, 2400. Basically, you use it to limit as much damage as possible, playing around with however monsters they have and stuff. So that's cool. And its effect, once per turn, if a monster battles during damage calculation, you make the battle damage you take from this battle 0. So, do you special summon it in attack mode? No, you can special summon in defense mode. So if a monster battles during damage calculation, make that battle damage you take from this battle 0. If a monster battles during damage calculation, you can make the battle damage, and then you special summon it. Okay. I can see this being useful, but more like a stalling tactic, but the fact that it's a scale of 2 is nice.
This physicist who led several breakthroughs in quantum theory, I wanted to mention him specifically because Schrödinger actually has another reference in the DD archetype, DD Ghost.
Yeah,
This
we just
card
got
depicts
him.
an obscured cat locked inside a crystalline container. And it doesn't take a quantum physicist to figure out that the cat in the box that's being called Ghost is a reference to the incredibly famous Schrödinger's cat thought experiment, where Schrödinger used the uncertainty of whether a cat is alive or dead in a box if a flask of poison with 50% chance of breaking is in there with it, and that you won't know until you observe it, which breaks the uncertainty. And, well, in DD Ghost's name, it clearly implies that someone locked in and it didn't turn out well.
I never got a chance to take a look at the card because, the card itself is small, and let's be honest, we just look at the main body. But I never noticed the cat's face coming out of here. That's so cool. Oh my god, because of the reflection, it looks here, but then the crab makes it look here, and then it does this whole, staircase thing. That is so cool. Poor kitty. I hope he's okay.
Well, for the cat, or could always see the cat since the box happens to be translucent. Don't worry though, it was just a thought experiment and no cats were harmed in the making of this video.
I'm calling BS on that.
And that's it for the DD Savants. But let's move on to the grander figures in the DDD sub-archetype, which depict larger-than-life mythological and historical figures from the ancient past or from literature. We'll kick it off with the mythological figures, with our first one being DDD Cursed King Siegfried. This synchro is a reference to the German mythological hero Siegfried, who is derived from the Norse myths of Sigurd.
Wow, just look at the difference between these two. This guy's built a little bit more. And he's got a dragon for a head. That's pretty cool. Our boy over here just has a really large sword and long, flowy white hair. And this is clearly brunette or something. It's not white. Huh, that's pretty cool. And the sword is smaller than this one. Take what you will with that.
Siegfried is best known as the famous example of the hero who rescues his beloved Brunhilde from a dragon. Unfortunately, there is no DDD version of Brunhilde, but at least there's a Valkyrie one. The other two mythic touchstones of the character is that he reforges his father's shattered blade and happens upon a dangerous ring that curses him with misfortune. A couple of storytelling pieces that you might recognize from Lord of the Rings.
Hence,
DDD Cursed King Siegfried alludes to both of these, with his massive sword and artwork, as well as the curse part of his name for suffering the curse of the magic ring. On to another dramatic legend. Our next up to bat is DDD Dragonbane King Beowulf.
Terrible movies, but great
Beowulf
card.
is an Old English and dramatic mythological hero who, much like Siegfried, was known for daring feats, and most importantly, slaying dragons. They really dug into the name for the artistic inspiration on this one, depicting him as a literal wolfman. This art would make him a better reference to the monster Grendel from the story rather than Beowulf himself. Beowulf's 3000 attack value makes it quite adept at crashing into the mini Yugioh dragons that like to stick to the 3000 attack stat line. And the fact that this would destroy both pays homage to Beowulf succumbing to his wounds and dying after defeating the dragon of Hernes. Keeping with the Old English mythological references, next up is DDD Dragon King Pendragon.
Alright, so quick note about Pendragon. If you guys did not know, I used to use this a lot during Duel Links, primarily because of this effect. Not the first one here. This one here. Once per turn, you can discard one card. This card gains 500 attack. So, whenever your opponent gets the prompt that you're about to activate this effect, they don't get the comma and then the rest option. They only get that you can discard one card, this card gains 500 attack. So when we activate this card and discard it, and they have a negate, like 8, 9 out of 10 times, they're not going to actually negate this effect because all they're seeing on their screen is this card gains 500 attack. And because of that reason, they just let it go, and then we can actually destroy one spell and trap card on the field, and then, it's not targetable, so they have no idea which one we're going to go for. This card increases the target until the end of the turn. So this card was actually pretty solid. I mean, the fact that it's not a pendulum really helps it, because as soon as it goes to the graveyard, you summon DD Night Howling, and then you can synchro summon into Alexander or even Bright Armageddon. I mean, I would love to use this card more, but I just don't see a way to fully utilize it. I mean, I don't know if even Master Duel put the entire effect here. I'm going to try that just in the solos and see what happens. But I thought it was a little nice fact. Maybe it was an error on the end of the developers for Duel Links, or maybe it's because of this comma, the fact that they can't see the rest, because it's a then you can destroy a card. So this is the effect. This is just an addition to it. Let me know what you guys think, if you guys have actually ever used King Pendragon too.
One of the few main deck DDD monsters, Dragon King Pendragon is a reference to King Arthur, also known as Arthur Pendragon, a character most well known for being the King of Britain in the Knights of the Round Table mythology. Similar to DDD Dragonbane King Beowulf, they went all in and using the name literally for the artwork, taking Arthur Pendragon and making him look like a straight-up dragon rather than a noble
It's
king.
pretty badass,
If you want a
actually.
more knightly flair and a bigger dive into the Knights of the Round Table references, you could check out the Noble Knights archetype, who go all out in the knight theme. Next up is
Not my
DDD
thing.
Marksman King Tell. This Xyz monster is based on William Tell, a Swiss folk hero who may have served inspiration or been conflated.
Fun fact, I didn't use King Tell until maybe 6 months into playing Master Duel, because I thought it wasn't useful. And boy, was I wrong. So please don't watch the first 6 months of this channel.
For the better-known Robin Hood. Both are known for incredible marksmanship, cunning plans, and expertise in the wilderness. Marksman King Tell actually does a more direct art reference, as the monster is clearly holding some kind of forearm-mounted cannon or crossbow to allude to William Tell's mastery of the crossbow. It even has an effect very common on ranged weapon-themed monsters like Cannon Soldier or Cannibal Turtle by having a 1,000 life point burn effect, living up to the marksman title in both name and in William Tell's lore. Another famous legend of William Tell is the cliche of him shooting an apple off of a friend's head. And in Marksman King Tell's artwork, his torso looks suspiciously like a bright red apple with a chunk missing off the top of it. For our
I never
final
noticed that.
mythological
That's so
character,
cool.
we have DDD Abyss King Gilgamesh. As the name implies, the monster is a reference to the Mesopotamian warrior King Gilgamesh, titular hero of the Epic of Gilgamesh. This is the first monster so far that also has a slight variation in its OCG name, where the monster's title also includes a position at a company. In Gilgamesh's case, its title is CNO, or Chief Networking Officer, which
That's so funny, because, you know, Link monsters are born in the Cynet or whatever it's called. And that is actually pretty cool. Gilgamesh is a network officer.
fits with a Link monster and a
Yeah.
archetype, helping coordinate pendulum summons of other officers to its Link zones. That
If only it
aside,
had
the
that
more obvious
stupid
reference
3.
besides Gilgamesh's name is
But I think I get it. You know what? It took me a while to notice this, but the arrows are equivalent to the Link number. My entire brain malfunctioned the moment I realized this, and I never put 2 and 2 together until now, which shows you that I still have a lot to learn about this game.
its artwork. It depicts Gilgamesh equipped with an unreasonable amount of weapons being wielded or strapped to his back. This is a
Unlimited Blade Works, anyone? Does anyone know that reference? Let me know.
direct nod to other modern references to Gilgamesh in Final Fantasy RPG games and in
And
the Fate series of games.
there you
as
go.
anime.
There's
These
my
love to
guy.
depict Gilgamesh as a warrior overloaded with weapons.
Hashtag
and in
my
Final
real
Fantasy's
Gilgamesh.
Case, often as an antagonist who's trying to snatch legendary weapons away from others. And while I don't know a lot about the Fate series, they clearly drew some inspiration from the Final Fantasy
No,
version of
not
Gilgamesh and
Unlimited
the
Blade Works.
summoning of
Yeah,
an
Gate of
absurd number
Babylon.
of weapons with the Gate of Babylon ability. Though there's more than one Gilgamesh in that universe, so they might even be referencing more than that. And that's it for our purely mythological beings. There's still plenty of deities left to cover. Let's start with the legendary deities who were inspired by, for sure, real-life people.
Let's go.
Kicking off with DDD Oracle King Dark.
Yep.
This fusion monster is meant to reference Joan of Arc, one of history's most famous
Arc,
female
and
figures
then
for her
Dark, that's
zealous
so clever.
rallying in defense of France during the 100 Years' War. Obviously, the Ark in the name is the direct reference, but even being called an oracle alludes to Joan of Arc's prophetic vision she claimed came directly from God. The artwork helps confirm this, as despite having King in the name like many DDD extract monsters, Oracle King Dark is presented as feminine in contrast to most DDD monsters being explicitly masculine. And despite being a fiend and having some
This reminds me of going back to Fate, Fate Zero, Fate Stay Night, all that stuff. Arturia Saber is technically a female, but they're still called, King Arthur, and depicted as male. So everyone was surprised that King Arthur was a female, similar to the card
In
here.
Phoenix visuals, her artwork depicts an almost angelic figure with its gold and white armor and enormous wings, helping sell the divine aspect of Joan of Arc's story as both a soldier and a prophetess of God. Though they are demonic-style bat wings, so it's a fiendish angel to stay in line with DDD's being evil, fiendish.
I always wanted to have a crossover between DDD and then Dark Lords, and this could have been a really cool way to get them to be that way. Like maybe we can have a DDDD, like Fallen Angel, the Ark, or something like that. The Lynx, DDD, and Dark Lords. I think that would be a cool hybrid deck. I mean, we've seen other decks. I mean, if Branded can like link up with so many different archetypes, I'm being over exaggerating, but still, I mean, I feel like we can go into into the Dark Lords, just because they fit so well. Fallen Angels and then Demons. I mean, that fits so nicely.
Takes on these legendary figures. For one king to another, next we have DDD Rebel King Leonidas. Another of the main deck DDD monsters, Rebel King Leonidas is for sure a reference to the legendary Spartan King Leonidas.
I feel like
If the
his
name wasn't
shield
enough,
is
the
too
artwork
small.
is a dead giveaway, as the monster is sporting a Corinthian helmet, a large round shield, and the flowing red cape often associated with Leonidas. Even its effects play into Leonidas' most legendary moment. Its monster effect lets you special summon it from your hand when you take life point damage, gain life points equal to the damage, and then prevents you from taking effect damage while it's on the field. And its pendulum scale effect is similar, letting you sacrifice Leonidas to prevent effect damage and heal yourself for the same amount. While these effects are just nifty in DD decks to offset the dark contracts, Leonidas is best known for its self-sacrifice to slow the Persian Empire down and prevent it from overcoming Greece. And his card is quite good at leaping into the line of fire to protect you. And speaking of the Persian Empire, next up we have DDD Stone King Darius. Named for...
Has anyone actually played Darius? I have a replay coming out, maybe soon, of a guy that doesn't use a DDD deck, but just a level 3 Fiend deck, and uses this, and then and then XC changes into
Darius the Great, one of
Machinex.
antiquity's most revered rulers over Persia during the reign of the Archaemenid Empire.
I've never used
While
him
most of
before.
the references in the DDD archetype come from folk heroes or legendary generals, Darius the Great was best known for his administrative and bureaucratic accomplishments, as well as his benevolence as a ruler in ancient times. This is reflected in his ability with DDD Stone King Darius' ability to recycle your dark contracts to draw a card, turning your useless paperwork into something of real value.
Wait, once per turn, during either player's turn, you can detach one material from this card, then target a contract we control, destroy it, and if you do, draw a card. If this card battles an opponent's monster, it's during damage colors, you can detach one material from this card, make this card unable to be destroyed by battle. Destroy the opponent's monster that battled it after damage calculation, and then inflict 500. I mean, the effect is not terrible. I just wish it had something similar to like Vice King Requiem's monster effect that it gives to Egg Seed monsters, that instead of destroying it and sending it to the graveyard, it recycles it into the main deck, and then you in this case, draw a card. I think if this guy was a rank 4, it would see more play. It's too bad it's only a rank 3.
Even his title Stone King is a potential allusion to the incredible amount of great construction projects he ordered and funded from Egypt to Babylon.
That's cool.
It makes its DDD's only Earth monster for that unique status. This also helps
Oh,
round
it's
out the
Earth,
attribute
right.
cycle for the DDD
Makes
kings.
sense.
We move from the ruler Persia to the conqueror Persia next, with both DDD Gus King Alexander and DDD Gus High King Alexander. These two Alexanders are in reference to the Macedonian king and general Alexander the Great, best known for conquering much of the Western world, stretching from Greece and Egypt all the way to modern-day Pakistan, engulfing Persia before his untimely death.
Wait, how do you pronounce this? Scythia. I mean, if it had an N, I thought this had an N for a second, and I immediately got pushed into Pokemon territory.
Though there isn't much to glean outside of his name, as his artwork looks more like a reference to the Clearwing monsters in Alexander the Great.
You got a
You'd think
glow
they'd
up.
at least squeeze in a
Look at
reference
that.
to
Look
it
at High
already
King
not.
Gust.
These Gus Kings do represent the win attribute in the DDD's King Cycle, and DDD Gus High King Alexander is another of the DDD monsters to have a corporate title in its original name, in this case being an executive at a company. Next up is another double feature with DDD Flame King Genghis and DDD Flame High King Genghis.
Executive.
Both cards directly reference the ruler and founder of the First Mongolian Empire, Genghis Khan. That said, the references sort of dry up there, just like with Alexander. While the Mongols were known for many things, such as their incredibly wide-span empire, mastery over warfare, cavalry, archery, and so on, the effects of the cards, while powerful, don't play into the legendary nature of the Mongols or Genghis Khan. The effect to special summon another DD monster from the graveyard when another DD monster is summoned does help you swarm the field, which could be associated with the Mongols' horde natures of overwhelming numbers.
See, if it did it more than once per turn, or like twice per turn or something like that, or maybe you can choose like weaker monsters to be special summoned, then it would have been more realistic. I mean, even High King Genghis can summon more than one monster, but you know, I mean, that's just
but it's
me
still
being
only
picky.
one extra conditional special summon rather than a real swarm of monsters. And the art showing a demon wielding a giant sword and shield definitely doesn't line up with what the Mongolians were best known for. Just like with Alexander, the Flame King Genghis duo continue the elemental representation by being the fire attribute amongst the DDD kings. And DDD Flame High King Genghis also has the executive title in its OCG name. And for the last of our historical figure DDDs, we have the ones who supplanted the titles of King and Emperor with DDD Wave King Caesar and DDD Wave High King Caesar. These cards reference Julius Caesar, member of the First Triumvirate and dictator of ancient Rome. A man so synonymous with conquest and rule, Roman rulers would often call themselves Caesar rather than king, emperor, or dictator, as it was seen as a greater name to take. Caesar
cool.
is best known for being one of history's greatest tacticians, as well as his proclivity for recruiting his enemy soldiers during the Roman Civil War. This lines up well with Wave King Caesar's effect to special summon monsters from your graveyard that were destroyed in the same turn at the end of the battle phase. Caesar often gaining more troops than he lost at the end of a battle. Though Wave High King Caesar's generic, if powerful, negation effect doesn't really play into that lore. Also, much like the previous two kings, DDD Wave King High Caesar is an executive of the DDs in its OCG card name. One final small fact before we move on is you can also tentatively categorize DDD Supreme King Kaiser under Caesar's reference, as well as...
I've mentioned this before, but every time I add King Kaiser into the deck, I can never properly utilize him. Even when I summon him, it gets completely negated or overthrown or whatever, and you have to put an effort and put away your combos, or maybe use this thing mid-game or something, and plan it out, essentially. I've seen so many other channels utilize this guy properly and effectively. It's just, for the life of me, I cannot do it myself.
Kaiser is just the German version of the term Caesar in reference to a ruler, with the artwork to match it as it carries the armored skirt and red cloak, often associated with Roman soldiers in art and historical depictions. Though, I don't think Romans were known for the use of upside-down swords, or whatever it is Supreme King Kaiser is holding there. And in our next DDD section, we have the DDD monsters that represent finality, conclusions, and the end of the
Kali
war.
Yuga.
We will start with the DDD whose name
Armageddon.
even alludes to the beginning with DDD Duo Dawn King Kali Yuga. This card is in reference to the Yuga cycle in Hinduism, a 4-part cycle where each part represents an age or extended period of time in the world. There are 4 Yugas, and Kali Yuga is the 4th, final and worst of the Yugas.
Damn, that is such a missed opportunity to have like the 3 Yugas being like DD, or maybe there could be like a 5th one or something like that. We can get like an evolution of Kali Yuga and get it more closer to its anime counterpart, where you can destroy cards, and then part of its effect to destroy things is bring back cards in your graveyard, and then you can activate them on the same turn that they are set. I mean, that would be a great evolution for Kali Yuga. It's just that too bad. I mean, but to be fair, I mean, if we change the name a little bit, like DDD Dual Dawn King, Tretra Yuga, it doesn't roll. Ketra Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, no, Kali Yuga is, I guess, easier, and that's why they did it. But it's a bit of a missed opportunity to like make variations. Like we have Wave King Caesar and Wave High King Caesar and those guys, those evolutions. It's such a missed opportunity there.
It represents conflict and the evils of the present spilling forth across the world, and is dominated by evil, godlike beings known as Kali. This cycle is also meant to eventually lead back into the first of the cycle, the Krita Yuga, when the golden age of humanity is come to pass again after the Kali Yuga is done. Kali Yuga, bringing forth the dawn, despite representing the final piece of the cycle of the universe, is very in line with this absurdly powerful effect to completely negate everything.
Actually, that reminds me of the Utopia like rank 0. Maybe the evolution could be the renewal king, Katra Yuga or something like that. And it could be something similar to zero attack, zero defense. Same thing as the Utopia rank zero monster that requires two non-numbers exceed monsters that have the same rank. You guys know the one that I'm talking about. I think that would be a cool evolution for Kali Yuga.
Everything on the field for the rest of the turn when it's summoned, as well as its mass backward removal effect wiping the world clean for what comes next. It's even sitting on a majestic throne in the artwork, quite apt for the king that represents both the beginning and the end. Even its OCG corporate name leads into this association with leading into something new, as Kali Yuga has the founder title. Which makes sense, as when Kali Yuga is done, you would have your new world or company in this analogy. Sticking with the end and rebirth of the world theme, up next we have GDD Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok.
The other chair guy.
This references the Norse end of the world event Ragnarok, where all the gods will die, the world will freeze over, and eventually give way to a new world. Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok continues the trend of Kali Yuga, also sitting on an ostentatious throne. Ragnarok doesn't really have that much else as far as references go, though it does seemingly combine with the Caesar line of DDD cards and the Fusion Evolution DDD Wave Oblivion King Caesar Ragnarok. While the fusion materials can use any two DDD monsters, its name is clearly a mashup of Ragnarok and Caesar into a hulky monstrosity of a boss monster. And
I mean, I knew that, but at the same time, I didn't consider that it was really like a fusion of these two particular monsters. I mean, you get the horns of Ragnarok, you get the purple and blues of Wave King Caesar. The shoes are actually Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok shoes. If you guys saw the full artwork, not just the cropped out version here. Same thing with like the little cloak in the background and the little wavy arm, like belt thingies. Huh. I mean, I knew that, it was referenced. I just didn't know they were an actual fusion. That's pretty cool.
And just like Caesar and Kali Yuga, both the regular...
I think maybe that the reason why, maybe the original plan was to have, instead of two DD monsters, it would have been like, one Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok and one one King Caesar monster, so you can use Wave King or Wave High King. I think maybe the reason they didn't do that is so that we can't use the support for like specific fusion material cards. Like for instance, there's this card that recently that got released in the Cyber Dragon deck that pretty much allows you to show a fusion monster, and then you get to special summon a material from your deck. I forget what it's called. But maybe that's the reason why if we had access to support like that, then the deck would have so much more, even more than what we currently already have for options for especially the fusion side. Maybe that's why.
Regular and fusion version of Ragnarok also have a corporate job title hidden in its original name. In this case, Ragnarok is apparently the chairman of a company, and hey, he is sitting in a chair. Next up, we have a series of cards that all revolve around one particular monster,
We know these
DDD
guys.
Doom King Armageddon. In the anime, this is Declan Agaba's signature monster
Declan,
around which the DDD
sorry.
deck seemingly centralizes
Ragey.
on.
Not
Which makes
Declan,
sense, as in its OCG name, it's stated to be the CEO or Chief Executive Officer in the company setup of the DDDs. This is typically the highest position in a company. This wouldn't make much sense for one of the less powerful monsters mechanically, but does make sense as Declan's ace. From there on, we have a few variants, retrains, or evolutions of Armageddon. For instance, DDD Vice King Requiem, who is very reminiscent in its artwork of Doom King Armageddon, but
Really?
its name rank
Yeah,
is
okay, I see it.
COO, or Chief Operating Officer, and that's usually the second in command at a company just below the CEO, so it's treated as support for Armageddon. And
I
that
see it.
tracks given the type of finality in his name. Requiems are usually songs meant to be played after the deaths of other people, a song of repose for seeing souls off to the afterlife. If you were going to have a world-ending event like Ragnarok, Armageddon, or Kali Yuga happen, then a Requiem would naturally be paired with that. Our next world-ending theme monster in the company is DDD Chaos King Apocalypse. Its corporate position is Director General,
Another
which
card
can
that
be
I
the
don't
same
really
thing
use,
as CEO, but
unfortunately.
is often another high-ranking supportive executive who supports the CEO, once again revolving around the central Doom King Armageddon. Not much else to say about it besides that, since this art just looks like a beefed-up DDD Doom King Armageddon. None of these three are
got
especially
arms.
powerful enough to justify these really ominous world-ending names associated with them. They are generally just regular combinablers, extenders, and utility pieces in the archetype, so there's not much to dig into lore-wise with them. The entire cataclysmic naming convention of the DDDs just seems to spawn from DDD Doom King Armageddon's own name being so edgy. Sticking to the topic of Armageddon, its status as the ace monster of Declan also earns it some more powerful extra deck evolutions, and these actually deal with Yu-Gi-Oh lore as opposed to real-life lore mythology. The fusion version is known as DDD Super Doom King Purple Armageddon.
Based on the
purple in its
dragon,
name is just an obvious
Zark
reference to the
from
purple card
Duel
borders of
Monsters.
fusion monsters. But the more interesting thing is the artwork. Purple Armageddon's artwork seems to be a mashup of DDD Doom King Armageddon and the final antagonist of the Duel Monsters and GX eras of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zork Necrophades and Night Shroud. This is evidenced by the large draconic head growing out of its lower extremities and how the torso design has been changed to resemble Zork's downward curved horns. It also carries the two small wings on its back that resemble Night Shroud's wing-like dual disc. Declan is clearly calling back to the two villains of the earliest era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Back when only fusion monsters were available as extra mechanics, and homaging the most dangerous villains of the fusion era. Following that theme, up next is DDD Super Doom King Bright Armageddon. This is the Synchro evolution, and the bright in its name is both a reference to the bright white card border of Synchro monsters, as well as potentially referencing Yusei Fudo's star-themed boss monsters like Stardust Dragon and its entire Synchro evolution line. The monster's art references Zone, the final antagonist of the 5D era of Yu-Gi-Oh! And user of the infamous Time Lords. Bright Armageddon's face and arms represents Zone's mask and the huge floating arms he used to manipulate things. It even has a large, fairly simple, and geometric torso that's reminiscent of the Time Lord's geometric-shaped chest used to depict faces. And for our final Armageddon evolution, we have DDD Super Doom King Dark Armageddon. With this name, the Dark references the black card borders of Xyz monsters and is homage to the Xyz focused Zexal Arrow's primary antagonist, Dawn 1000. The monster has a ton of wiggling tentacles coming out of the gate with it, which is a direct reference to Dawn 1000, who often use tentacles to attack or trap people. The monster is also coming out of a large gate, which makes sense when you consider the monster's entire form seems to be a direct visual reference to the Baron emblem, a symbol of the Baron dimension where Dawn 1000 was banished
I
to and
never
rules over
noticed
the
that.
malevolent
Holy
overlord.
Jesus,
The
that's so
entire
cool.
Armageddon line of the DDD cards help shows Declan's premise in the Arc 5 anime as someone with questionable methods, willing to use whatever power suits him to succeed. A very odd trait for one of the protagonists of the story, but he's the bad boy rival to Yu-Gi-Oh's brighter primary.
Whoa. Bad boy rival? Nah. I mean, he's a rival, sure, but bad boy? Nah. Our guy Declan, or Reiji, as, some of us call him. I mean, he's not a bad boy. He likes the game and he's good at the game, but his whole shtick is the fact that he's the guy with the plan. If it wasn't for him, everything would have fallen apart. Yugioh can't do shit by himself. Reiji is the one who planned everything. He made the Lancers. He had all the plans in all the different dimensions. I mean, he's just the goat of the entire show. I mean, bad boy? Nah. He's just very level-headed and just, key performance indicators in front of him. That's all he cared about. And he's a CEO. He's not going to care about the game. That's the reason why he let Yugioh beat him in the final duel of the show. It wasn't for the sake of him, winning the game for the sake of winning it. It's because he had to save the multiverse at that point, and the best way to do it is have an amazing show and then basically taking a little bit of a dip and letting Yugioh win. His main goal is not to win the card games. I mean, it helps if it does for some things, but some things like the ending, just no. Reiji he's like 10 steps ahead. Calling him a bad boy is a bit of a dishonor. Not dishonor. What am I saying? Dishonest? Something.
Very antagonist nature. So these overly dark and monstrous creatures serves to make Declan a good foil as a combination rival and ally of Yu-Gi-Oh's. His ability to draw on the power of the worst villains of Yu-Gi-Oh's past eras and master each summoning mechanic is a big part of what people love about him as a rival.
Damn right.
There's still one last DDD to cover though, and a fitting one for the final entry. Our last monster is DDD Divisor King
the one we
Deus
never
Ex
got.
Machinix. Unlike the previous entries who are all named for or associated with cataclysms that end the world, Machinix completely subverts this by referencing the greatest power of all storytelling, the power of the author. Deus Ex Machinix's name is a direct allusion to the Deus Ex Machina, the literary term that literally means God from the machine. It's a well-known writing mechanic, and the name is meant to evoke the omnipotent power of God, but used by the author as a machine to resolve an unresolvable situation, a plot point in the story, so as to get the desired ending, often with an abrupt or unforeseen occurrence that warps everything up as if God just stepped in and made it happen. While Ragnaroks and Armageddons are foreboding stories about things ending, Deus Ex Machina is the true ultimate power when it comes to bringing a story to its end. The Divisor King, sitting on his throne like the other top executives of the DDD, also carries the title President of the company, the only title that can stand equal to that of Armageddon's CEO title. DDD Divisor King Deus Ex Machina is arguably DDD's strongest boss monster, and carries a name and title that gives it the highest rank and the most power possible in the story, the strongest finality for our final monster. And that's it for the DD archetype. Are there any bits of trivia or DD lore that we may have missed that you know about?
I think you got it all.
Or are there any topics you'd like to see us cover like this? If so, leave those down suggestions in the comments down below.
Well, that was the video. Thank you so much to DuelLog's. I already subscribed, I liked, I even commented on here, liking my own comment because, you know, reasons. I really like this video. It's nice to be able to, you know, read through all these things. I mean, I've seen the wiki, I've done the trivia on the questions in the channel a couple of times, so that was nice. But anyway, if you guys like this video, by all means, go to the TheDuelLog's on YouTube, subscribe to his channel. He's got other cool videos that I found, and like, subscribe. And if you guys comment, just comment on their mind or comment that I, send them your way. And if you like my reaction to this and you guys want to see more of my reactions to either, duels, DDD duels, or other type of content from other creators, or maybe even maybe watch the show or something like that, or do reviews of something, by all means, just let me know in the comments down below. I really would like to know what you guys would like to see in terms of content other than just the replays and the deck lists and the occasional time where I can just, play. So for those of you guys who don't know or haven't been made aware, I actually ended up being able to get the memberships and the supers. Memberships, I mean, my goal for this is to be able to, I haven't really made an announcement yet, so thank you again, Joaquin RW, for being the first person to see it and then immediately subscribe to it. I really appreciate it. So I got 3 membership levels. Don't really worry about 2 and 3. I mean, I just put these on here because they wanted you to put these on here. But ideally, it would be great if at the bare minimum 20 of you guys subscribe to the D-level support. 20 people would actually end up covering the whole prize for the winner of the tournament, which is the 1400 gems. And for these types of tournaments, I would love to have a more comprehensive ban list and limited list rather than what we currently have on Master Duel, TCG, and OCG, just so we can have a bit more variety. And who knows, if we get a lot more support for the channel and we get more members, we can have more tournaments and then have an entire tournament series like I wanted to do before, which I still owe you guys. Actually, we're almost at 1,000 subscribers and I owe you guys 7 tournaments with 1400 gems. It's exactly what I'm talking about right now, which I wanted to do. So look forward to that. I'm definitely going to take a look at getting that going. But in the meantime, if you guys are capable, by all means, please support the channel by subscribing to the D-level support. If you guys cannot, then please just continue to comment, liking, subscribing, all that good stuff, sharing if you can. It really helps the channel out. I'm surprised we managed to get to almost 1,000 in the level of effort that we put into the channel already. But just thank you guys so much. It really blows me away that so many folks are interested in DDD content. And I just would love to create more things for you. So please let me know in the comments below. Again, like and subscribe. Check out the TheDuelLog's for all his content, which we did a great job for. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one.